My name is Luis Ferresteri. I'm the chair of the Historic Districts Commission in Concord. Welcome to the April 21, 2022 meeting of the Town of Concord Historic Districts Commission. The commission will review 2 continuances and 4 new applications. At the end of the review of the applications, we will also conduct some additional business. During the discussion of the application for 399 Lexington Road, I will recuse myself as I am both a neighbor and a corporator of the Orchard House, at which time Catherine Mast will become a voting member and the position of chair will be held by Vice Chair Peter Nobili.
I don't.
What?
Okay.
We are conducting this meeting online in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. The public may access this call through both telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions following the petitioner's presentation and questions from the commission. To do so, please raise your hand in the participant function of the Zoom meeting platform. If you are calling in and cannot use the platform, you may raise your hand by dialing *9. Our host will mute microphones of those not speaking in order to preserve bandwidth and may need to turn off video, with the exception of the commissioners, the host, and the current applicant. I will call on each commissioner for comments on an application and then open the meeting for public comment. Once there are no more public comments, I will ask a motion from the commission to continue, to approve with conditions, or to reject. A second, and conduct a roll call vote. Once the commission has acted on an application, the applicant is free to leave the meeting. I will do now a roll call of the commissioners. Abigail Flanagan.
Can you hear me, Luis?
I can hear you.
Okay, great.
I can hear you now. I didn't hear you before. Catherine Mast.
Present.
Henry Moss.
Present.
Peter Nobili.
Here.
Melinda Shumway.
Here.
Paul Ware.
Here, present.
And I am present. So we'll proceed to the first of the continued public hearings, which is 52 Main Street, to remove, replace, and install new lighting. And I want to express our gratitude to the applicant for the reception that was given to us when we had a site visit last Tuesday evening. So is the applicant here? Of course.
Yes, hello everyone, Amanda from Gensler here.
Hello, Amanda. Go ahead. We had a very open discussion, and if you can summarize the changes that have been made or the proposals that you are making.
Sure, and I can. Is we are proposing to replace, remove existing throughout the location over here.
Amanda, I think that your audio, it's not very good.
It's cutting out.
All right, let me know if it's better.
You have to try it. We cannot hear you right now.
Me better now or no?
You are going, no.
Oh. Let me join with my phone.
I can hear.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm calling in from my phone. So I was going to share my screen, but it seems like my connection isn't good. Overall, what we were doing is we were looking to replace lights along the building and then add new fixtures at the front. Most of the work that was going to be done was to add lighting at the front of the building, which was 3 new lights on each side of the adjacent store, 1 light above the door. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this. So we would be there. The existing lights would be staying, which are shown at the front in the orange. We on the corner go south. There's an existing night drop ATM. The turquoise light is be removed. And then we're going to be adding new light fixtures, which are shown in the darker purple blue. Proposing to add another fixture further down.
I don't think we can hear you.
It appears we've lost your audio again.
We cannot hear you, Amanda.
Right. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Now we can hear you, but you were completely mute for a few minutes there.
Okay, not a problem. So I'm sorry about that. So yes, what I was saying is then we were going to add lights going down the drive aisle. And then as you get to the back of the building, we were adding even more light fixtures on the back, removing one in the upper corner above the door. And then as we round around where the ramp is, we are going to remove one of the lights that's in turquoise. That was one of the bright ones that is currently sticking off the top of the building. And we're going to replace with a new light fixture. And then we're going to add another light fixture on the backside near the cafe in that area, which when we were walking was the darkest area of the building. And the only other light fixture that we would be proposing to add would be the light post, which is located near the ramp going towards the parking lot. And I hope that summarizes, I believe, all the light fixtures we are planning on adding, removing throughout the site. And again, sorry for my audio. I hope I don't disconnect again.
Thank you, Amanda. Actually, your audio is very good right now. Could you tell us very quickly how many less lights do we have from the original proposal that you presented 2 weeks ago?
Nothing has changed.
Okay, so we still have about 5 lights on the front and the same number of lights on the side and on the back. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, you want to make any other points of information or any other points before we start the discussion?
I don't believe so. I believe we talked through a lot of it earlier in the week. So I'll let you ask me any additional questions that you might have.
Okay, so I'm going to go around the screen and I'm going to go first with Paul.
I was sort of trying, when we were out there, I was sort of doing a synoptic comparison of this with Middlesex Bank, and Middlesex has downlights underneath the portico, but it is actually relatively bright, and then it has lights flanking its 24-hour service. So I actually, I'm probably at a table for one here, but I don't really object to the lighting on the front facade. I mean, some of it, I could equivocate a little bit about some of the lighting over the windows, but essentially I think it defines the building very nicely. As we go down the left side of the building, on the Middlesex Bank side, my memory is there are 2 or 3 additions there. None of those seemed disproportionate, but they also don't seem terribly necessary because the ATM area, both the vehicle ATM and the walk-up ATM seem well lighted, independent of these proposed additions. So I'm not a big fan of the lighting on the sides of the building. I think there was then a light pole that is just to the starboard side of that tree we could see on the left side of that picture. And we don't quite know what that's going to look like or what its size is, but seems to me to be unnecessary because the ramp itself seems adequately lighted. So I basically agree with the scheme, but I'm sympathetic to what I'm sure is a view of many, that we could cut the numbers down here and achieve the same result. And I tend to agree with that. I guess my inability here is to articulate which ones should be eliminated, because I don't really think the front facade is either offensive, nor is it really inconsistent with Middlesex Bank immediately to the west. So anyway, I'll be interested in other commissioners' comments in this regard.
Thank you, Paul. Catherine.
Actually, if I may I request that we see the specification for the additional lights?
They are located in the package.
Is it possible to bring that up?
Was there a specific one you wanted me to go to?
Well, to Paul's point, I'm also interested in sort of more of the large, what looks like basically floodlights that wash the facade from above the windows.
Sure. So if we keep scrolling down. We can keep going. Okay, so right there, this is the bank standard Cree Edge series light fixture. It would be in bronze, or we could do them in white on the front of the building. And it is a slim profile rectilinear light that is used throughout.
And my only other question is, so the whole impetus for these added lights have come from an eye towards customer experience and a need for them that has been revealed through experience. I mean, I'm just trying to again, to follow up on what Paul was saying, wondering how much is really needed and how much is really important as far as sort of safety and customer experience.
Yeah, and I mean, most of these, as we have explained before, and on Tuesday during our walk, was the bank has a design standard that they apply to all their banks throughout the country, and that is what they're doing there to get these specific lighting levels from their security perspective, bank customer, and making users feel safe, and that's kind of how they are coming up with all these light fixtures that we are presenting to you.
I think those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Henry?
I'd understood that security was provided the impetus for all of these installations. And the only security area I could see that would be affected by any of this lighting is around at the alley, facing away from the bank towards the outdoor seating of that cafe. All the rest of it really seemed to me to be either a kind of visual signage facing Main Street, apart from immediately over the door. And I think the lighting designer should consider at least the feasibility of a downlight in the soffit area immediately over the main entrance door, lighting the steps. When you move from that area, apart from the windows that Paul was talking about, I don't think Concord's street frontage needs those windows to be lit at night. What Paul said about the Middlesex Bank behind the portico being lit is correct. But I also think of it as not just in terms of brightness, but I think of it as a little bit recessive because it's behind the columns of the portico. This is just a wash down the facade. A light that is significant on the building that I think this shows is at about 12 feet above the ATM. That's existing, and there's a fair amount of glare there. Unless that's new, if I'm wrong, the existing light is even higher and lights the concrete down near the ATM. The two lights which are on the wall next on either side of the door seem to me to be not necessary, as you are keeping the lights in the sort of torchères at the tops of the stairs that have been there for a long time. So the light here that looks to me like it might be useful is immediately over the door. The lights that are associated with the ATM and the corner, the street, the sidewalk level at the corner, those are already okay. If they need to be changed so that they do the same thing again, but with fixtures that were specified everywhere else for Bank of America, I don't think that's the end of the world. When you go down the alley, I don't understand why you need more light. The pedestrian way is lit with bollards at a sidewalk. Cars that are coming through there have headlights. So those are what I'm taking issue with is more conduit on wall-mounted fixtures on the drive up to the car ATM. The existing pole lights associated with the bank are innocuous, not very tall, old-fashioned fixtures. And those seem good. And it's not clear to me why, apart from consistency with all other specifications, the bank would want to depart from that with the new pole light, because we'll end up with three different kinds of pole lights: the town's lights for the parking lot, the existing lights behind the bank that are pole lights. Town lights are probably 30 feet tall. The ones for the bank are probably 12 feet tall. So this would be yet another type of light in the corner. Well, yes, there. I noted that the question of whether the Natural Resources Commission cares how much light goes into that wetland area was unanswered. I do think that that's a call that the bank's designers should make. When you go to the roof level, there are two existing fixtures that just are aimed towards the parking lot, and they are very, very bright. They stand on stalks about maybe about 2 feet above the roof level. And what they do is just throw a kind of indiscriminate wash out towards the whole parking lot area and kind of over the ramps and steps. And it's not clear how well defined any of that lighting is. I think that the wall-mounted fixtures that the bank proposes to help with the visibility along the ramp are far superior to those existing lights, which are up at the top, not in this illustration, up at the top corners on the north and southwest corner. And it's not clear to me why those need to be kept. It's possible that the lighting designer doesn't know they're there. So those are things that I would consider in a simplification of this scheme that would be more suited to its specific location and its neighbors. After dark, Concord's upper stories are generally not lit except by street lights. The ground level is lit, often by lights within shop windows. So I think lighting over the main entrance door and having light at the areas of the ATMs makes a lot of sense. Other than that, I think it's just a matter of general illumination back at the ramp. And I think the wall fixtures that you're suggesting probably do that well enough so you can take the bad fixtures off the roof.
Thank you, Henry. Melinda.
So I think that a number of the lights are superfluous, not required. I understand that Bank of America is doing this across the country, but I doubt that many of their banks are in the historic district. We are not trying to make our historic district look like a mall. It does not need to be lit up so that it's so bright all night long. I agree that the Middlesex Savings Bank to the left of the building does have these downlit, which is very pretty with their pillars. But if you look at the building immediately to the right, there's very little lighting on that building. One of the things that I noticed last night, moving up from the alley to the building on the right, was that they had motion detector lights. And I wonder if this had ever been considered as an option for this building. I am most against the lights that are over the windows on the front. I think it's way too bright. I don't think it needs, adds to the safety feature of the building. I think that there's enough light there already. If you want to put the light above the doors, it won't make a huge difference, but the lights over the two windows are too bright and unnecessary. The pole light in the back should match the ones that are in the front. That just is, in my opinion, a no-brainer. The ATM lights, I think, actually design-wise would be an improvement. I think the flat black lights would be better than the white cones that are there now, or cylinders, I guess I should say, which look very modern against this building that is not modern. So and in the lights along the side, again, I think those are superfluous. There's street lights to the left because it's a road. So I think if they were to cut the lights by about half, that would be fine. And that's all I have to add.
Thank you, Melinda. Abby.
So I thank you again for the site visit on Tuesday. It was most instructive. I agree with what most of my fellow commissioners have said. I'll be specific as to the light fixtures that I am in favor of and those that I am opposed to. The TB1 fixture that is over Associate Entry 2, which is on the Main Street side. I agree that a recessed light in that location could be deemed appropriate. I don't think a larger, brighter fixture there is appropriate, but a recessed light over that door, I think would be in keeping with both our guidelines, our standards for appropriateness, and as we've seen at the Middlesex Savings Bank and other locations. I don't have an objection to AG2 on the rear of the building in the back corner. I believe there's an emergency egress there. It's a darker corner on the cafe side of the building. I don't have an objection to that. I also agree that the current fixtures at the vehicle accessed ATM and the pedestrian accessed ATM could be improved. I don't have an objection to the number of fixtures there, but the white, large, modern fixtures, I don't think are appropriate. And if they were proposed to be swapped out with a different fixture, I would not be opposed to that. All of the other fixtures, I think, are superfluous. And I think in their current proposed configuration and design are inappropriate. I am completely sympathetic to the idea that this is a large national corporation. They have fixtures that they select, and that is their initial proposal. I would ask if the applicant go back to corporate with the feedback that we are in a prominent location in a historic district with an architecturally significant building, that we ask that the fixtures be minimized in terms of number, that fixtures that will be prominent to the streetscape, i.e. the ATM fixtures, would be more historical in nature, and that any other proposed fixtures be either absolutely necessary in terms of health and safety or be eliminated. That's my overall sense of the scheme. I understand the idea behind it. It's a great opening kind of effort, but this is a very particular location, and we are a particular historic district. So that is my both specific and general advice for the applicant in terms of coming back to us with a subsequent proposal. I could not vote in favor of the current proposal.
Thank you very much, Abby. Peter.
I love going after Abby, I have to say, because now all I have to do is append what you just said. And I'm sorry to leave Paul, I'm sorry to leave you sitting at that table by yourself, but I think I pretty much agree with Abby. I think the AH1 fixtures over the front windows really should be eliminated. The only other thing I can usefully add is it seems to me that the Cree light fixtures are, I mean, contemporary is probably the wrong word for it. They're too flat. I'd like to see something that's more hooded, or, you know, can still cast a cone appropriate to the need, but is less flat, I think is maybe the right word. I know even our street lights, the LED, the lamp is relatively, but there's a large kind of hood over it, and those do seem to be more, let's say, friendly to Concord Center. And I understand the need for security, but I think if Lighting Central down in Texas or wherever they are, if they turn the camera around and looked at the street, they'd see that there's plenty of ambient light all night long on that front facade, especially. So that's all I'd add on to what's already been said. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Catherine, you already made some comments, is that correct?
I have.
Okay, I'm sorry. You are now out of my lineup, so I just want to make sure. The comments that I have to make just echo the comments of all the other commissioners, except that I also disagree with Paul, unfortunately. But I will give some general comments because I believe that the applicant should have some flexibility about how to interpret the observations that we're making. I believe that the overall appearance of the building is not consistent with Main Street Concord. It has too many lights. And my impression is that the purpose of the lighting is to call attention to the brand name, and in this case, I believe that that plays a much secondary role to maintaining the uniformity and the consistency of the historic part of Main Street. I don't want to make specific comments about which lights to remove or not, because I think that the applicant is much better qualified to do that than ourselves. But I don't agree with having lights at a very high position that are aimed downwards as floodlights or something that has the same effect. I'm concerned about the effects of wildlife in the back of the building. And I don't believe that there's a need to have that amount of lighting, both on the left side of the driveway towards the ATM. So as it stands, I don't believe that I will be able to support this application, and I will encourage that the applicant takes the comments that we have made very seriously and try to come up with a scheme that substantially diminishes the number of lights that are being proposed. Now, are there any comments from the public? In the absence of any public comments, I'll ask the applicants if you want to make any additional comments on what was said, that then we'll have the option of continuing the application or taking it for a vote. And my suggestion would be that we continue the application to a date that is suitable for the applicant. So if you, Amanda, if you want to make any comments.
I have no other comments to make. I think I've expressed all the comments previously. Thank you.
Okay. So I will ask a motion from the commission that we continue the application or that we vote to approve or deny.
I make a motion that we continue the application for 52 Main Street to the May 5th meeting.
Seconds?
I'll second it.
Okay, I'm going to go around. Paul?
I agree with the continuance. I question whether having dealt with some of these entities, whether May 5th is enough time to do anything of any import.
That
But
is
other than
an excellent point, Paul. Amanda, would the May 5th meeting give you enough time to propose a different lighting scheme, or do you need additional time?
We will need additional time since this has to go through various entities through the bank.
Would May 19th work for you, or would you like to push it beyond that?
Can we settle on May 19th and then as we get closer, get back to you if we would have to push it a little bit further?
Yeah,
Okay,
you can certainly push it back once it's been scheduled, and that's not a problem at all.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so I will amend my motion. I move that we continue the application for 52 Main Street to the May 19th meeting.
I'll accept that friendly amendment and second it.
Okay, so I'm going to go around. Paul?
Yes, in favor. Aye.
Henry?
In favor.
Melinda?
Aye.
Abby?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So we will continue this application to May 19th. And thanks very much again for the presentation and for the site visit. Right, so the next continuance is adjacent road design 45 Berkeley Hill Road, the North Ridge Monument Square Historic District. And again, we appreciate the site visit this morning, which was quite informative. It's the applicant here.
Yes, here.
Okay, Jason, you want to go ahead and give us a little tour of what we saw this morning, a formal one.
So thank you for meeting this morning. I just wanted to start by going over two comments from the last meeting from the commission on lighting. And then I just wanted to quickly summarize the solar roofing option that we have currently. I'm going to share my screen. So one of the comments in the last meeting was the F3 fixture, which is a series of low lumen in-ground fixtures that will proceed from the front entry down to the driveway. It was sort of a sheared side lighting fixture that was possibly a little bit tall. And our alternate is this option. So from the stainless steel down, that would all be below ground. So this is actually a lower fixture with a canopy design over the top but sort of shields the inlet so that the side light is lower to the ground and shielded from the top in a better way. And again, the design of this fixture is to graze the walkway. The other fixture that was brought up was at the garage elevation. One comment was possibly could we go with a single fixture in the middle, and we're still advocating for 3 low lumen downlights, principally for this corner leading to the rear yard. As the homeowners step from that corner down to a rear pathway, they just want that corner to be better lit. And then the fixture itself hasn't changed. It would be this type. That's about 300 lumen delivered and a 3000 Kelvin fixture. Regarding solar roofing for the project, the previous manufacturer, we found out, unfortunately is no longer available in this area for either solar tiles or for the low profile panels that I presented. So we found another option, solar tiles, and we're actually pretty excited about this option as the product itself has active solar tiles. Again, the tile itself is the weather resistive barrier for the roof. So it's both electricity generating and it's a tile, and it has an inactive tile component that you can cut very cleanly around edges, dormers, penetration, skylights, and then wherever there's no electricity being generated like on the north side. And the difference in this diagram here, this construction diagram, is we would obviously have plywood sheathing on the roof with a waterproofing membrane, and that would suffice for keeping water out. These tiles are engineered for wind, rain, hail, snow, footfall. They're very robust. And the inspiration for these tiles actually comes from slate roofing configuration. I'm going to show just a couple of examples of how they look in daylight. And you can see that the tile from both this upper street view and this aerial view, the roof appears very uniform. You don't see really a distinction between the inactive panels and the active panels. And I just have some drawings here to show you of the scale of what we're looking at. For the south elevation, these would be mostly active, obviously. Electricity generating roof. The east and west would be electricity generating. And then the north would be the inactive panels, but again, uniform as you walk around the building. And then just a quick look at the active panel. This is the shape, the configuration. And I just wanted to quickly show you a couple of other manufacturer projects that were successful. And again, I just want to point out the uniformity. It really appears as a continuous single material. This is a public project. Here's an aerial view of public project. Again, roof dormer, no issues with edges. And same thing on this house, which has a lot of complicated penetrations. Okay, so that concludes my comments, and I just wanted to open it up now to the commission for some feedback.
Okay, thank you very much, Jason. So I'll start around my screen with Henry.
Jason, thank you for showing that, including the, making clear the scale of the individual shingles. I think it's going to be very noticeable and a little bit out of scale with your roofs, but in that particular location, I think not a problem. Almost next door, there are panels, big rectilinear panels on the roof. And these roofs are not going to be particularly visible from Monument Street. And I think that there's, I think the scale of the individual elements is a little bit awkward, but that people will get used to it and stop paying attention.
Thank you, Henry. Melinda. Are you there, Melinda?
Yeah, I'm trying, sorry. Unmute. So I think it's groundbreaking. I think these tiles are fascinating. They don't bother me a bit. They haven't been used in this town before, I don't believe. They might have, but I certainly haven't seen them. I find, I think we ought to be forward looking and thinking that, you know, this is the type of thing will be coming forward. It's certainly more attractive than what exists next door or 2 doors down. And I applaud you for being able to find an alternative. And so I think it's fine.
Thank you, Melinda. Abigail.
I'm sorry I wasn't able to attend the site visit this morning. I have 3 sick kids at home, but I appreciate the change in fixture, the F3 fixture along the path. I think that's an improvement. We're always concerned about light spillage and that type of thing. And I think that fixture certainly addresses the concerns that I previously had. So I think that that's an appropriate change to the application. Like Henry and Melinda, I think the roof panels are really interesting. I agree that the rectilinear panels that had initially been proposed after the Tesla panels were not available were concerning in terms of their visibility and kind of obtrusiveness. I think that this is a more elegant solution to the problem posed by the varying roof lines and dormers and such. So I'm in favor of it. We have stated very clearly in our guidelines that we are in favor of the use of solar panels and energy. It's something that we are trying to incorporate more into designs within the historic district. It's always a challenge. And I think that this certainly proposes a good solution bridging the gap between a traditional roof and the rectilinear panels. I think this is a happy medium. So I would be in favor of the application with the new light fixtures proposed for the F3 fixtures and the new solar tiles proposed. The application as a whole with those 2 changes would be appropriate in my estimation.
Thank you very much, Abby. Peter.
I agree with what Abby said, so I'd just second that and applaud you for finding those solar tiles. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Peter. Catherine.
Yeah, I always find it interesting when something like this is proposed, and I personally find myself divided sometimes in terms of like, oh, well, you know, we have to acknowledge that this is not exactly, you know, historically in keeping with the architectural context and traditions of Concord, but I agree with my fellow commissioners. I think this is actually very exciting, and I think we do need to be forward thinking, and I think this looks like an excellent product, an excellent way, as Abby mentioned, to bridge kind of you know, conservation and finding solar power for homes, and also in a way that is aesthetically, you know, more pleasing, certainly, again, than the large rectilinear panels. So I am also in favor. I think it's a very exciting choice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Paul.
I really have nothing to add to my colleagues' views here. So I won't.
Thank you, Paul, for being brief. I'll try to be brief, which is impossible. I think this is a great project. I don't think that you need 3 lights in the garage, but I'm not going to dwell on it. I don't think it's just necessary. I think that the idea of the solar panels on the roof, it's forward thinking. And I think that if we're going to do it, it should be done in this particular house, because it will not be impinging on anything that it's obviously historical from the perspective of all the historic Concord. So I am in favor of the application as it stands. Are there any public comments? Okay, it doesn't look like there are any. So Jason, you want to make any additional comments after having listened to what the commissioners said?
I appreciate all of your time and responses. And just to clarify, so the 3 fixtures at the garage, if the homeowners choose that option, we could proceed with that.
The application stands as it stands, and it has 3 lights. You must listen to everything that it said, but the application is what counts. So there are 3 lights there, you build 3 lights. We're not going to tell you not to do it. And I certainly will not vote against it, and it would be irrelevant anyway. So you don't have to worry about that part. It is an observation that I make, that you can take it as for what it is.
Okay, thank you so much. And
okay,
I think that's it for my comments.
Well, thank you very much. So I will ask the commission for a motion to approve, deny, or continue this application.
I'll make a motion that we approve the application at 45 Bartlett Hill Road for renovation addition work, including front and rear additions to relocate the driveway and garage entrance, install solar roof tiles, make changes to landscaping and hardscaping, and install lighting as amended in the recently received information. By the recently received information, sorry.
Thank you, Peter. Second?
Second.
Okay, so I'm going to go around. Henry? You are muted. Now you're on. Are you in favor?
Unstable connection, yes.
Okay, Melinda?
Aye.
Abby?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So good luck.
Nicely done, folks.
We look forward to seeing these roof tiles.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming by. All right, now we are going to have a new public hearing, which is John Ego, 44 Barrett's Mill Road, to repave and reconfigure driveway and to replace the mailbox. Is the applicant here?
Yes, I'm here, but Zoom is telling me that the host has disabled my video. Now she's asking me to start it. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Thank you. I'm John, and I'm here to ask permission to repave our driveway. I submitted the application in the slide deck, and if we can, just to summarize, there are 3 things we have on the agenda. The first is to repave the driveway, which is in pretty poor condition at this point. The second is to add or replace a mailbox, and the third is to add a weather vane to the roof of the barn. You can see from these pictures here, the existing driveway has been torn up over the years. We just moved in about 2 years ago, and we've been waiting to do this project. We're now ready to move forward with it. Lazaro is going to be doing the paving. There is a slight expansion that we're requesting to the driveway. It's on the left-hand side of the driveway. I tried to put the dimensions in here. Approximately starts at that bend to the left, and it is about 6 feet in length at that point, and then it grows to about 10 feet. And that gives us the ability, as you can see, cars pull in and out there over the dirt. And what we're trying to do is eliminate that eyesore from the street. So we're planning on taking the driveway just about 10 feet further. And that's actually the reason I was told I needed to come before the commission. The mailbox, we have walked the neighborhood, and the mailbox on the left is what we have today, and the mailbox on the right is what most of our neighbors have in the area. And we really like those mailboxes, so we thought at the same time we'd replace the mailbox. And then the next and final ask is about a weather vane. I tried to give you an idea of where we were going to place it. There's a peak right in front of our barn. This is a weather vane we've picked out that's copper in nature, and it would be visible from the street, but it's not that big, so it wouldn't really capture the eye, I don't think, in a big way when you're walking down the street. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Very good. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to go around my screen. Melinda.
I have no objections. I think all of this looks fine.
Abigail.
I have no objection to the weather vane or the mailbox or the expansion of the driveway. My only question is the age of the driveway currently makes it appear, the weathering and the aging of it makes it kind of less obvious. And I'm a little concerned when it all becomes new blacktop. Have you considered chip seal for the surface of the driveway to make it a similarly rustic appearance with the increase of like new functionality?
We did consider chip seal. We decided not to go with chip seal because of cost, because it added about $5,000 or $6,000 to the cost. Plus, it made it the way the Lazaro people explained it to me, I would have to wait another 6 months and have chip seal installed later after everything had settled. So those two factors, we're really interested in kind of just getting this done with, because there's so much traffic at the house right now that, so that's why we didn't go with the chip seal. Okay.
No, I mean, I don't think the expansion of the driveway is significant enough that I would vote in opposition to it. But I think it's worth noting that it will appear, larger and more substantial with the new surfacing material.
Thank you, Abby. Peter?
I have no objections.
Paul?
I also have no objections. I share Abby's instincts about the coloring, but I mean, as a practical matter, I think this is fine, and I would approve it.
Henry.
I have no objections. It's a lot of asphalt, but I don't really know what, could be done to make it less obvious. And as Abby points out, it's going to be much more obvious for 5 years. But I would not oppose any of the three things that have been put forward. I like the drawing of the horse weather vane as a 30-foot tall element.
I wanted to make sure you could see it. So.
Thank you, Henry. Catherine?
I too have no objections for the three fundamental changes. I think over time, the asphalt will weather and become a little less dense in terms of the visual impact and more subtle. So I have no objections.
Okay, I have no objections either, but I express my regret that we still have to go with asphalt. It's a material that it's very environmentally unfriendly, and I wish there were alternatives. Chip seal, it's an alternative strictly from an aesthetic standpoint because the permeability is exactly the same. And basically, most contractors are very well geared for putting asphalt down, so they don't welcome the idea of putting anything else as a matter of principle. But I certainly would not object to the proposal as it stands. Are there any comments from the public? Okay. Do you want to make any comments to the comments of the commissioner, John?
No comments at all. Thank you for the input. We have wrestled with this now for 2 years since we bought the home about what to do. And similar to the statements made, we're hoping the finished product will weather very quickly and return sort of to that off-gray color that we have today with this very, very old driveway.
Thanks very much. So I would like to have a motion from the commission to approve, deny, or continue the application of 44 Barrett's Mill Road.
I'll move that we approve the application for 44 Barrett's Mill Road to repave and reconfigure the driveway, replace the mailbox, and add a weather vane to the structure.
Second.
Okay, so Henry,
Aye.
Melinda,
Hi,
Abby,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Catherine,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and I'm an aye myself. So congratulations, and we shall look forward to seeing a new. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
The next application is 399 Lexington Road, Jan Junquist, the Orchard House. So as I stated before, I will recuse myself. I will turn off the video. Peter Novelli will be acting as the chair, and Catherine Mast will be a voting member.
Okay, thank you, Luis. Hello, Jan.
Hello, thank you.
Welcome.
For this evening.
All right, let us know what's going on.
Well, we seek approval to replace at the same sign and the same size, the same information, actually everything the same, except that we will now have a sturdier material, which Mr. Crosby has used all over town. It's a PVC material that looks like wood, and to have some elements, according to his design, carved as opposed to simply painted.
All right, and I see Billy is here. I suppose we had questions about the sign specifically. Is any changes to lighting?
No,
Okay,
there is no lighting connected with it.
there's no lighting. Okay, so we're basically replacing, it'll look the same, just be made from a different material.
Yes, it's almost a replacement in kind, but as I say, there is a different material.
Okay. All right, well, why don't we see what folks' observations are? I'll go in my order. Henry?
I think it looks fine. I had to use it last week, and if it looks the same, it'll get me there again.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Henry. Melinda?
I think it's just fine.
Thank you, ma'am. Abigail?
So I have no objection to the change in material. The only hiccup I have is that our guidelines no longer permit the addresses.
Sorry, say again.
Our guidelines no longer permit web addresses on public facing signs. So the louisamayalcott.org under the Open Daily technically isn't allowed under our guidelines. It's probably not necessary anymore. I think a lot of times these web addresses were proposed prior to the days when everyone had a smartphone and was Googling everything. So it's probably not necessary in order for people to find out additional information. But given that it's a new sign, if it's going to technically meet our guidelines, the web address should be eliminated. Other than that, I don't have any objection.
Thank you, Abby. Jan, if I could pause for a sec, any objection to removing that from the sign?
Well, we want to comply with what is required. If it were permissible to have an exception on that, the reason that we find that it's very helpful. You would think, I agree with exactly what she said. You would think that people wouldn't have trouble, but what happens is they Google and there are all these other things that jump into line. Plus there are bed and breakfast schools. There's a publishing house. I mean, people still don't seem to find us. So that's the reason that we would like it, but we will obviously acquiesce to whatever the commission decides.
Okay, thank you. Let's just continue the observations. Paul?
I don't have any objection to the change in material. I wonder whether we can grandfather that. I mean, I'm both sympathetic and empathetic to the Orchard House. I mean, having lived at 525 Lex, I think I'd like to see it kept if we can do it.
Oh, so it's on the
I would-
sign now. Is that on there
Yeah.
now?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so I
it
mean,
fell apart because the
There it
wood
is.
at the bottom rotted, and so we can't put
Okay.
anything under now, but yeah.
So
I think that's what gives us, if the commission wants to approve it in its current
Right.
configuration, I think that gives us the leeway and latitude to do that without setting precedent of allowing web addresses in newly proposed signs in other locations.
Agreed.
Since it's not a change in design or configuration, it's simply a change in material. I think we can do that. But I just want to make it clear that we're not setting a precedent that we would allow web addresses in other locations or other signs or newly proposed signs.
so with council's advice duly noted, I'm in favor of the sign as is, that is with the website on the sign.
Thank you, Paul. Catherine?
I echo Paul and Abby's comments. I think if there can be a grandfathered clause or way to retain the website, I think Jan makes a very good point about sort of the rabbit hole of confusion that can happen when people do searches. So I too agree that that would be great if that could be retained. And I also agree that I have no objections whatsoever to the new material for the signage. I like the fact that there are going to be some, relief carved elements to the sign. So no objections.
I think technically this would be grandmothered, given that it's the Alcott house.
Yes,
Just
good
to be
point, Peter.
clear. And I have nothing useful to add. So I think we've heard from all commissioners, yes? So I'm going to see, is there any public comment on the application to change the signage from one material to another at the Alcott house? I'm looking for raised hands or people waving. I seeing none, I would come back to the commission for a motion, please. Don't all jump in at once.
I make a motion that we approve the application for 399 Lexington Road for the change in material to the currently existing configuration of the sign, with the caveat that the website address included in the sign is grandfathered as currently existing.
I second the
Second.
motion.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion and a second. So let me go around and please give me an aye or a no. Henry,
Aye.
Melinda,
Aye.
Abigail, Paul,
Aye.
Catherine,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well. So Jan, thank you. Billy, thank you for showing up there in the background. Oh, no, you're still there. And good luck getting it done.
Thank you. We appreciate your help, all of you. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Luis, I hand the ermine robe and scepter back to you.
I joyously take it back. The next
Hot for-
application, it's David Garrett, 166 Monumental Street. for replace existing screen porch with an enclosed room. Screens replaced with windows to match the existing window space in the patio. No changes in the roof line, and there are plans in the website. So, David, I see you are there. So, if you want to present the project to us.
You've described it. Actually, we have an existing screen porch. We want to replace the screens and enclose the porch with windows that are identical to the ones on the other side of the patio, on the square patio, as you can see from this picture.
Okay, so that's all there is. There are no other changes, correct?
No other external changes. It's the screened-in porch, putting windows along there, and a gas fireplace at the back.
And you are not adding any light fixtures or any additional lights as from before?
No lights, nothing external.
Okay, well, looks like a fairly straightforward thing. So I'm going to go around the screen. Melinda.
I have no objections.
Abby.
No objections.
Peter.
I'm good. No objections.
Paul.
No comments, no objections.
Henry.
I think it's fine. I think it's an improvement.
Catherine.
I agree. I think it will be an improvement.
And I have no objections either, so I will ask the commission for a motion.
I make
Public
a
comment.
motion-
Public comment.
Or
first.
public comments, please.
Sorry.
Apologize. Okay, in the absence of public comments, I will ask the commission for a motion.
I make an emotion that we approve the application for 166 Monument Street as submitted.
I'll second that motion.
Hey, Melinda.
Aye.
Abby.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So I regret to tell you that you are not the fastest approval for an application. You are the second fastest.
I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
You are most welcome. Thank you. Okay, the next application is Jennifer and Thomas Kelly. The 377 Main Street to replace roof, install air conditioning equipment, repair side porches and replace balusters, construct a new portico, install new lighting and mailbox. And
As a point of order, I am a butter to 377 Main Street, so I'll be recusing myself from the application. I will mute my microphone and turn off my video for the duration of the application.
okay, so I will appoint Henry as a full voting member for this application. All right, Melinda, you want to make any comments?
Are there new slides on this particular application?
No, I don't know if I gave the applicant,
No.
if the applicant wants to explain exactly what's going to be done, I'm sorry, I jumped the gun.
That would be great. This is
Yeah.
Jen Kelly, my husband,
All right.
Kevin, also on the screen, and the architect Marshall McLean is also available if you have questions, but I'll do the initial presentation. As Luis just said, we do have 4 components in the application, but one of them we actually are going to scratch from the application, which is the installation of the air conditioning. Since we completed the application, we've been working with the air conditioning contractor and have determined that the most efficient and visually best place for the units is behind the house, which are not visible from the public way. So for any needed approval. So getting back to the 3 components we still have, the first is re-roofing, which is pretty straightforward. The roof is in
really bad shape. And yeah, she just flashed by the shingles we're going to go with are asphalt architectural shingles. I've identified 2 different colors for your approval because of supply chain issues. It was a little unclear which one would be available. They're both a dark gray Timberline HDZ model. There is a piece of the roof that's actually very difficult to see from the ground that's rubber and mostly not quite flat, but close to flat. That will also be replaced at the same time. I don't even know if you can see it in any of these pictures because it's very hard to see. It's on the other side above the bay windows there. You can see just a little hint of it there. Yeah, that will also be replaced. It's cracked as well. So that's just a replace as is with different color shingles. One item that I think we overlooked in our application is that there is roofing above the big porch that needs to be repaired. It's unclear, you can't quite see it because it's also quite flat. It's unclear if that's going to need to be replaced or not as we do the repair, but I would like to get approved new roofing for that as well. Right now it's rubber white. It's in pretty rough shape, so it probably needs to be replaced. I think we would just put the same black rubber that's on the other side just to make it all match. You can't really see it from the ground at all, or very, very minimally. It's almost flat. So that leads to the third, I guess, or second part of our proposal, which is repairing the porch you see there. It's in really bad shape, as a bunch of other existing photographs demonstrate. Our goal is just to repair as much as we can. We've met with a contractor and we had a structural engineer look at it. It's a little hard to tell until we start disassembling it, just how bad it is. So our goal is to repair, but there may be some rebuilding involved if we find some pretty bad rot. I know that the footings are rotted out. I know that that beam that's currently being supported by a 2x4 needs some sort of reinforcement. So from your perspective, it will look the same, with the one exception that we'd like to swap out the balusters that are there now. They're broken and they're not original. And instead, we would like to put in square balusters that are closer together, that are consistent with what's in a historic photograph of the house, which is also included in the application. So visually, you can see them there on that portico. You can sort of make them out on the big porch to the left. It's really a repair / rebuild as needed. The only visual change will be the balusters and the roofing color, which isn't really even visible. There is a small side porch at the very back that's barely visible from the street. And it's already had some maintenance done to it years ago, but it has 4 or 5 of those same balusters. So we would match them up so they would all be the squared off ones. So before I go on to the new portico, which is probably the biggest component, should I just go ahead and do that? Or do you guys want to have any discussion about the repair piece?
I think that so far what you have presented is almost replacement in kind. So yeah. I don't think that we need to discuss it much further, but we're very interested on the portico.
Yes, so the portico is the most exciting part of the application. Marshall has helped us design this after carefully looking around town at similar age houses and similar styles. We see the front of our house right now as being very stark. It has a lot of roof. It's a very tall roof. And it once had a portico, as you saw in that historic photo. So we hope to reclaim that architectural component, but with a slightly different style, because the one that's there in this photograph is quite heavy. It also had a dormer in the roof, which we're not putting back. So we looked for something that would tie together the big porch that's being repaired, which is fairly flat roofed, and kind of soften the facade and make it a little bit more visually interesting. We're also taking down all those overgrown shrubs, so you'll actually be able to see it. And our thinking is that while the house dates from 1830 to 1840 at the front, it's had at least 4 significant additions. So it is a pretty eclectic hodgepodge architecturally. The big porch is obviously not original, nor are the bay windows on the right. So we tried to design a portico that's kind of tying together the original age of the house with these other elements which date from maybe 50 or 60 years later. And for inspiration, we looked at other buildings in town. This one is modeled fairly closely off of the library's new annex building, which is a similar age and style house. There are other ones on Main Street that also have a similar low hip roof design. And then the only other elements we put in the application were to put some side lighting on either side of the door, and a new mailbox, because our mailbox leaks water. So we tried to pick something pretty innocuous for the mailbox that would just blend in, and the lighting fixtures are fairly low light and are consistent with what we see on our neighbors' houses. So I welcome any comments or questions, and Marshall, who's the architect, is here too. So if you have more detailed questions for him.
Thank you very much, Jen. Now I'm going to start the discussion now that we have the information, and I ask Melinda to start. You are muted.
Sorry, I have no specific objections about this. In fact, I think the new portico is great. I think the new porch is great, and I think it's an improvement. Everything you're planning to do will be an asset to the house, and I have no objections.
Thank you, Melinda. Peter.
I agree. This will be a nice improvement. It ties the architecture together nicely, and I appreciate a little bit of history about the house in the narrative as well. The only thing is, I don't know if this is going to require a site visit or not. It's pretty straightforward to me. I don't think we need a site visit, but I'd stand back if other folks thought we should take a quick look. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Peter. Henry.
I'm not sure what Marshall's putting forward for the roof of the new porch.
It's seamed copper.
Yes, okay, that's what I was hoping. The only question I had about the balustrade at the porch was, I don't know if all the balusters are gone, but I saw that as a later addition, and an interesting, the fact that they were all turned was an interesting element with that heavy rail at the top. I would not really oppose what is being suggested. I do think that what's being removed is a loss.
Thank you, Henry. Catherine.
I agree that I think the what is being proposed for the new portico is well designed and balanced and in proportion to the house, and the the way it incorporates all the elements, I think is very nice. I have no objections.
Thank you, Catherine. I don't have any objections either. I think that this is a nice project, and I take into consideration the observations of Henry. But I think overall it's a vast improvement. So, are there any public comments about this application? Okay, Jen, you want to make any other additional comments after?
No,
have spoken?
I appreciate everyone's comments, and I hear your point about the balusters. They're in pretty bad shape, and as you can see, part of them have been ripped out and replaced with just panel, like I don't even know what I would call it, but the ones that are on the road right now are not those turned balusters. And I think we are excited to return to what we see in the historic photo, which predates the turned ones. And we think that's more consistent with the style of the portico we've designed. So we did think that through and considered that for quite a while, but I appreciate that comment. And thank you all for the approval.
Not yet.
Or not quite. Leaning towards approval.
Okay, I will ask members of the commission whether any member has any strong opinions about having a site visit just for the information of the applicant, usually when we have projects of this magnitude, we usually have a site visit. This particular setting, I don't have any particular concerns, and I would not need a site visit. But if there's any member of the commission that feels otherwise, then by all means we should have a site visit. Is there any objections about not having a site visit? We can have a voice vote. Well,
No.
if there are no objections, then I will ask the commission for a motion to approve, deny, or continue this application.
I would be pleased to make a motion to approve the application for work at 377 Main Street to replace the roof, repair the porches and balusters, construct the new portico, install new lighting and a mailbox, but not the HVAC equipment, correct? Okay.
Correct.
A second?
Second.
Okay, so I'll go around on my list. Henry.
Although Peter said repair the balusters, and it's really replace.
Yep, sorry, thank you. I'll take that amendment.
Amendments noted. So are you voting in favor then, Henry?
Yes, aye.
Okay. Melinda?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
Can I ask one quick question? Are you all also approving, in case we need to replace the big porch roof with the black rubber instead of the white? It's not in the application because I just forgot to put it in. Is that an acceptable roofing?
If you're going to change anything significantly, then it needs to be part of the application or needs a new application.
Okay.
But if you are replacing something that's already there, it can be considered a replacement in kind. If what it's being done is something that's very close to what it's there, but not exactly the same, then there's a possibility of having administrative approval. But that's something that you would approach the town planner and explore the issue with him or her.
Okay.
And if it's not visible from the public way, it would not require an application.
That's a good
Right.
point. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay,
So you're done.
Great.
thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much. So that's it. All right, so we have some other business to complete. The first one is a certificate of amendment for 19 Sudbury Road. You have any information on that subject, Heather?
I do, and I believe Vivian Lowe is here to present.
That's correct. Good. Hi, everyone. Heather, I'm not able to show my face.
I can share the screen and I'll just scroll
Okay,
through
it's
as
okay.
you
You
ask.
you all don't need to see me. Anyway, good evening, everyone. Thank you. It's great to see you all. Since we last met last fall and received the certificate of appropriateness, I'm here on behalf of Rosa Hallwell and Mark Stein, the applicants. The scope of work has changed slightly in that it's been reduced. So when we last met, the existing single car garage is going to be basically torn down and reconstructed as a two-story garage on the first floor and exercise room on the second floor. That is now off the table, and the existing garage is now remaining. And what we're doing with the garage door is we're reframing it so that we could slide the opening over to allow equal space on both sides of the car, so you can actually get out of the car on the driver's side. So that's changed the existing garage. The door is as proposed and approved last fall. So it's going to be a wood garage door with some single lights above. Actually, it's divided lights. Also, the second floor work, Heather, I don't know if you can slide it down. Yes, on the second floor. Oops. Yep. So the second floor work also has been reduced. The initial proposal was to reconstruct several of the spaces inside, which required moving windows around and replacing them on the back side. So the backside windows, the north side windows are no longer going to be replaced. Those are going to remain as is. The Stowe side of the house, the Stowe Street side, however, we are still installing a conservatory, building a conservatory with a skylight. And so the windows right above the conservatory will be replaced as proposed in the fall drawings, as are the two windows that are at the, if you look at the plan, right in front of the bedroom, office, and the stair hallway on the second floor. So if you don't mind, Heather, could you slide down to the elevations? So again, these are the existing elevations on the top, the Stowe Street side, as well as the east side facing the neighbors. And as you'll see, the garage really remains as is. We did need to move the proposed light so that it sits on the side of the garage door as opposed to above the garage door because it's no longer a two-story building. And on the back side of the garage, we're proposing a storage area that's actually an open air storage. And I think you might be able to see it better as you slide down the screen. So what we've done is bubbled the areas that have changed since we last met. So this is extending the garage roof down to about 3 feet and just building a little enclosure that's actually open air to store garden tools and bicycles and sorts. So what also changed here is the lighting location. Again, because it's not a two-story garage, we slid the light over so that actually sits on the existing building next to the door to the kitchen. So that is really the changes. We are in the process of applying for a building permit, and we wanted to update you all on where we are with this project. Any questions?
Thank you, Vivian. I'm going to go around the commission for comments. Melinda?
The changes to me are not significant to require another site visit, so I think it's fine.
Thank you, Melinda. Peter?
I also have no strong feeling about a site visit, and I think the changes are also fairly minimal. So I have no comment really at this time, no objections.
Thank you, Peter. Henry?
I like the idea that the driver can get out of the car. So the relocation of the garage door seems perfectly sound. I don't see any changes that are going to make the street frontage significantly different, let alone worse. No, I think it looks good.
Thank you, Henry. Abby?
I have no objection. I think the changes proposed are entirely appropriate within our guidelines, and I don't feel the need for a new application or site visit.
Thank you, Abby. Paul?
I have no comments. No, none of this is distressing.
Thank you, Paul. And I have no comments. I think that this is fine. So are there any public comments?
Luis said it didn't speak.
Oh, Catherine, I'm sorry.
Sorry. But I too have no objections.
Okay.
I think it's fine.
Thanks for your tolerance of my sloppiness. Any public comments? Okay, if there are no public comments, then I will ask for a motion to approve the certificate amendment for 19 Sudbury Road.
I'll move that we approve the amended certificate for 19 Sudbury Road as described in the material submitted this evening.
Any
Second.
seconds?
Aye. I'll second.
All right, so I'm gonna go through my list. Henry,
Aye.
Melinda,
Aye.
Abby,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Catherine,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. So good luck.
Great, thank you so much. Oh, and here I am. Thanks
Nice to
again.
see you.
Have a good
Goodbye.
night. Yes, thank you.
All right, the next other business is a certificate of amendment for 1 Sudbury Road regarding a specification of the lights and some alternatives on that subject. So I see you there. The applicant is there. So if you want to describe what it's being done and what are the changes.
So basically we had some delays, and so we just have now started to order the lighting, and turns out the one that we proposed previously and that was approved is not discontinued. There's an unknown delivery date, indefinitely delayed or something like that. So it could be 6 months. So we thought we would come to the commission and see if either of these choices might be also acceptable. And they are the sort of closest in terms of the CD glass and the 3 light specifications as the previous choice. So there's basically 2 options. One's called the Larchmont and one's called the Henry Street. And we have 1 hanging lantern in the front porch and a sconce on the mudroom door that we're talking about. But the height is similar to the height and width and girth, all are similar to the previously approved fixture, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. So you're saying basically they are exactly the same size, but the only thing that's changing is the style and some of the aesthetics of the lights themselves that are different from the ones that were approved. Is that correct?
It's right, yeah. Yeah, the one that was approved had a sort of more a tapered bottom, but I couldn't find one that with a similar one with seated glass, and I thought the seated glass was important to the commission, especially to you, Abby. So I specifically only was looking at some seated glass options, and these were sort of 2 that kind of felt like they might be acceptable to all of you. So, and if they're not, I'll go back and come up with some of the options, but I didn't know if we could wait 6 months or potentially more for the other one.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So we'll hear comments from the commission. Melinda?
I think your no choices are just fine.
Okay, thank you.
Peter?
I think they're both interesting options. The first one seems a little bit less Gothic to me. The Henry Street. The other one, the Larchmont, does seem a little sort of. Although that might be appropriate for the house. I can't remember exactly how it's going to look in the porch, but either one is really fine. I also just like the flat nature of the Henry Street as opposed to the little knobs on the bottom. That's just my personal preference. I think both of them are fine.
Thank you, Peter. Henry?
I agree with Peter.
That was quick. Abby?
This is something that we are encountering with numerous applications. You are not the only people that have had to come back and say, we've been told this has a 57-week lead time. So I would if we can structure the approval in some way of that, you can have the originally proposed light fixture, the Henry Street, or the last one, any of them are acceptable to me. Whatever you can order and get in a reasonable lead time, they all have similar wattage and lumens and kelvins and seated glass and dark sky compliant. I'm happy to use them, approve them interchangeably, and whatever you can procure in a reasonable time frame would be acceptable to me, because this is something particularly with fixtures that we are seeing across applications. So unfortunately, you're not the only ones experiencing this, but I have no objection to any of the light fixtures approved. If I had my preference, it would be your original, and then the Henry Street, and then the last one, the large lot. So
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you very much, Abby. Paul?
Yeah, I agree. Among these, I like the Henry Street, but I'm amenable to any and would approve the application as amended.
Thank you, Paul. Catherine?
Yes, the supply chain issues are alive and well. So I agree with my fellow commissioners. And I do personally prefer the Henry Street, just the simplicity of it, and the proportions of it, I think, are very nice.
Okay.
Thank you, Catherine. I echo everything the other commissioners said, especially Abby, that they can be approving interchangeable. So I think that we can ask for a motion to approve this certificate amendment.
Public comment? Do we need public comment?
I don't think we need public comments
No.
on something that has been already considered.
Groovy.
Yeah, you don't need public comment.
Then I will make a motion that we approve the proposed amendment to the certificate for lighting at 1 Sudbury Road as submitted with the material this evening.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
Okay, so I'm gonna go around my list. Henry?
Aye.
Melinda?
Aye.
Abby?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So good luck with the supply chain.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
We'll
Thanks
have
for
you all,
coming by.
having you all over in the fall.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Hey, listen, if you track down that shipping container with all these light fixtures, buy them all, because we'll put them in a warehouse here in Concord and sell them at a big profit.
That's right. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Very much.
Take care.
Bye.
So we are going to go to the last part of the other business, which is a discussion for support of the warrant article number 30, which is the Scenic Roads General Bylaw. We discussed this in a previous meeting. Abigail and Paul had some important observations on the way that the approval or that the scenic laws was submitted initially. And after some back and forth, they found a language that seems to be appropriate. As you know, not all, this material was circulated through all the members of the commission, so we don't have to go into any of the details. And as you know, some members of the commission found some of the language unnecessary or inappropriate, but some others found it consistent with the purposes of the HTC. So I will just very quickly interpret the letter. The first one simply says that we support the scenic laws. The second one is that we agree with the purpose of the law. And the third one is one that anticipates that the scenic law, the Scenic Roads Bylaw may have some issues of jurisdiction, essentially, upon what has been established as the purview of the HTC. And that's the reason that Abigail and Paul spent a fair amount of time constructing this very last paragraph. I brought this issue during the chair's breakfast that took place a couple of days ago. The chair of the Historic Commission, which is the one that it's proposing warrant Article 30, is very much aware of this issue, and she agrees that it would not be appropriate to have any issues with jurisdiction between the HDC and the scenic roads bylaw. And apparently, the matter was submitted to council, which found that it would not be a substantial issue, and that our statement was appropriate. So from my own personal perspective, I think that the letter as it stands, it's a good letter. I reiterate again that what we're doing is simply supporting one law that we believe will be beneficial to both the purposes of Concord in general and to our own purposes as a Historic Districts Commission. So I would like to hear some comments, and after those comments, I would like to hear a vote from the whole commission whether we approve the letter as submitted, whether we want to change the letter in any way, in which case we would have to determine exactly what the text of this letter will be, or whether we should refrain from either supporting by voice vote or in writing warrant article number 30. Just to explain just one more issue, our way of supporting this will be to send a letter to the members of the select board as it's in this draft. And then one member of the commission will be in town meeting and will express will express support to the scenic roads bylaw by voice. So I'm open to any comments. I can go around the table if you want. Melinda, you want to start?
So I actually did read this a couple days ago. I thought it was very well written. I understand that we can agree with some parts, but not with the parts that we have no purview over. And I think this is just fine.
Thank you, Melinda. Peter?
I think if we had to pay to have this letter written, we'd have to take out a loan given the number of billable hours that went into this letter. So I thank both Abby and Paul for writing it. The only thing I would change, Luis, is I wouldn't sign it chairman. I think we just call ourselves chairs now. And you may want to say Chair Historic Districts Commission.
Autocomplete. It's the culprit.
That's what I figured.
I don't have any. I haven't written chairman for a long time.
That's what I figured. But other than that, I think it's well written. It's clear, concise. Well done.
Thank you, Peter. Henry.
I think it's fine. I would remove the watermark that says draft.
I think that would be appropriate as well. I'm going to leave Abby and Paul, as they are the authors of the letter, for last. So I have asked Catherine about her observations.
I think it's fine. No, sounds good to me.
Okay, Abby, if you can summarize, you see, maybe you and Paul can summarize exactly the issues that you were dealing with, and I understand them very well. And I have to mention that Dennis finds it that paragraph inappropriate, as you all know. But I see where you're coming from, and I certainly respect the amount of thoroughness and information that you have provided.
So full disclosure, Paul really was the beast of burden on this because I had sick kids this week. So he really took everybody's comments and distilled it into what I think is a really clear statement. So as we said, the first two paragraphs, it's our show of support. The third paragraph is really, and understandably, I think if you read it out of context, it can seem a bit kind of steeped in legalese, but what it's really saying is that, we support kind of the effort behind the scenic bylaw. We support the content of it, but in terms of specificity and regulation and how it relates to our regulations, all that, like, we're gonna kind of keep our own little fiefdom intact. I think this is really appropriate. I still question whether it's necessary for us to weigh in on these things. Not because this one is problematic, but what I would like to see after this is some sort of framework whereby the HDC decides, these are the criteria in which we take a public position on a proposed bylaw at town meeting. Just because I'm always sensitive to the appearance of impropriety, the appearance of inside baseball, the appearance of overreach in terms of what our mandate is. And I want to make sure that we are only wading into issues that are kind of germane to our mandate. I think this one is. But I going forward, I do want to be kind of cautious and specific about, we're not taking positions on, something on school budget, or, there's just other things that we could obviously support or not support, but we want to make sure that we have kind of specific language about why the HDC would choose to publicly endorse something, as opposed to our individual members get up at town meeting and say, I'm a member of the HDC, I encounter these issues frequently, but I'm speaking in my personal capacity, and this is what I think. So I'm obviously this is the lawyer in me speaking. I always want to be cautious about how we approach things, how we make these decisions, because this one seems easy, but if there was something going forward that was more kind of a judgment call or was a little bit less clear, I'd want to have kind of guidelines set as to how we as a commission decide whether or not to publicly endorse another bylaw. So that's my general thought. I think this is an acceptable instance of it. I'd want to make sure that any members that had a vested interest, any sort of, they live on the road, they have anything like that, are recusing themselves, just to make sure that we're kind of above board on all of that. But I think Paul did a fantastic job. I think paragraph 3, any lawyer reads it and is like, yep, got it, know why you did that. And I think it's okay.
Thank you, Abby. Paul.
So I'll try to be brief, but I think perhaps Abby raises the most important question, and one that seems to have been on Dennis's mind, which is why are we doing anything? And I don't have an answer to that. I mean, obviously, to some extent, this is within the penumbra of what historic districts commissions think about. So in that sense, we might want to have an oar in the water, but one can understand the argument that this is sort of a tangent for us. Taking a position on this officially is a tangent. I don't feel strongly about that one way or another. But the way this is structured is to say, yes, we're in favor. In the first paragraph, that's what it's saying. And it's coming out of the box endorsing the warrant article. In the second paragraph, it's purporting to define the purposes of that warrant article. And so it's saying, here's what we're really supporting. The oversight, the vigilance, blah, 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 of work being done on public ways that may impact or adversely affect potentially these scenic ways. So that's really what we're trying to protect. That's the heart of what we're seeing here as the scenic bylaws warrant article. The third one is just lawyerese, but what it is saying is, I mean, first you have to keep in mind that in a sense we're an adjudicative body. We have people who come before us to propose something. We, in a sense, adjudicate the extent to which we're willing to accept what they proffer to us. We weigh that against guidelines, rules, and so forth, and we then make a decision. And because we're in that position, and because this warrant article says, by the way, down the road, we're going to make a bunch of rules and regulations. We don't know now what those are going to be. And so what this last paragraph is saying is, since we have no idea what the rules and regulations surrounding this warrant article may be as it's implemented a year from now, we want to hedge our bets against an applicant 5 years from now who comes in and says, oh, you guys wrote a letter endorsing this warrant article back in 2022. Therefore, your position on this particular scenic byway and a house I'm trying to build is X. And that's what we're trying to head off in the third paragraph by saying, nothing that happens here states a position of any individual member nor of a commission with regard to a future application. So it is really just a hedge against the future and creative use of this endorsement by an applicant. So anyway, bottom line, I don't feel strongly one way or the other whether we have an endorsement of the warrant article, but if we do, I think it should have some of these protections.
May I ask one question, Paul, while you're got the microphone here? I'm just thinking out loud here, but so we're an overlay district. I mean, there are a number of overlay districts in town, right? There are lots of zoning overlay districts and floodplain and what have you. There are other articles on the warrant this year that affect stuff within the historic districts. I'm thinking specifically about the Thoreau Business District. I think there's a warrant article asking about changing zoning there. Would it make sense in the future for the HDC to essentially, before every town meeting, just write a memo to file about the warrant saying, we have the following comments on the following warrant articles. Love the HDC, and just stick it in the file so that, because I think there are other things that are going to affect our future processes that we're not really being asked to comment on. Does that make sense to do? Or is that creating more paperwork?
Just to note, the Thoreau district rezoning is not located within the HDC.
Oh, it's outside the district. Okay.
But I think the principle that you're suggesting is interesting. I mean, I think there are other things that, at least in principle, impact the moral jurisdiction, if you will, of the Historic Districts Commission.
Right.
Whether we paper it in some way, frankly, I think that's unnecessary, and I think we get so bureaucratic if we do that. We're bureaucratic enough now, and I think to create yet another hurdle or something
process.
Process
Gotcha.
or something that's in a file with which an applicant has to deal seems to me to be undesirable. I mean, for me, less government is good government.
I agree in this case. I withdraw my comments there.
But I think Dennis feels that this is ridiculous, that this is a stupid letter, and maybe he's right. I mean, I think it raises the question, do we do anything?
Well, I just want to express that I think that the letter is appropriate, and to address some of the issues that Paul brought up. I think that what we're doing with this letter is asserting our role as preserving the historic references of Concord, and that we're doing that within the laws and regulations that are available to us. And to that extent, we believe that the scenic roads bylaw helps in the preservation of the historic references. So it helps in accomplishing the realization of our principles. And I'm using the words on purpose. So that's the reason that I think that we should support this law. And it's asserting that we have a role in the matter of the history of Concord, or the preservation of the history of Concord. and that bylaws like these help that general purpose. Therefore, we're sympathetic to it, to the extent that whether it is necessary or not, of course it's not necessary. It's entirely an expression of our assertiveness and nothing else. And I think that that's where we should make the decision, because I think that from a legal standpoint, the letter is outstanding. And on the other hand, I don't know exactly what is the letter going to do other than to put somebody on call that what they are trying to do may not be appropriate because the HDC will claim jurisdiction. And from that perspective, I think that it helps clarify things. But all these are hypotheses and speculation. So I don't think that we should spend much more time on these. I think that I'm going to ask the commission whether we approve. Okay, Linda has an observation. So go ahead, Linda. I'm sorry I didn't offer you that chance initially.
Thank you for taking my comment at this point in your discussion. I want to just point out that the select board has not requested this letter. Minimally, this letter was, there was an invitation extended from the town moderator for committees to consider taking a position on warrant articles that were close to the charge of the existing commission or committee. And then the other, so if in fact you do decide to go ahead with this letter, I think it needs to be addressed to the town moderator, not to the select board necessarily. The other thing I would just, and I do appreciate the expertise that's been brought to bear in terms of how this letter has been written, as well as the very thoughtful comments and I think measured approach that you've taken. But you certainly don't need to feel as though you need to do this. And you may have also gotten an invitation from the Historical Commission itself, who is putting this bylaw forward to weigh in. But I just want to be clear that the invitation clearly came from the town moderator. So thank you for your deliberations and work on this.
Yeah. I don't think that we are trying to bypass the town moderator or anything of that sort, but I think that my belief is that what Paul and Abby brought up are issues that are relevant, whether the Historic Districts Commission sends a letter supporting the bylaw or not. So my impression is that this letter is important, and this letter should be sent to the select board, not as a matter of principle, or not as a matter of procedure, but as a matter of principle. Just to let the select board know that we have certain concerns and that we are logging those concerns. And I think that the fact that we're supporting the bylaw gives us that opportunity. So I don't know how other members of the commission or Linda, what is your impression on that assessment?
So I certainly hear your rationale for that. I would, if you decide to do that, I would just ask you also then CC the town moderator.
Most definitely. So any other comments? Paul or Abby, you're on the spot.
I mean, I don't have any more substantive comments. I think the issue is the one that everyone is raising, which is exactly in what context is this part of our role, and is that good? Because it's roughly analogous to something the Historical Commission's doing, or is this just kind of our own little wish list, our own little fiefdom? I don't know. I don't really feel strongly about our sending this letter, but I'm not opposed to it.
Okay, so do we want to take a vote, or should somebody propose that we either send the letter or don't send the letter? What? How should we go about these? So we can take a vote if you wish. So, and the vote would be send the letter, and the way that I would structure the support would be to send a letter to the select board with a paragraph number 3 highlighted, if that's the case. And of course, a notice to the town moderator. And then we can support the bylaw by voice during town meeting, and we'll designate a member of the commission to do that. And the other option is just not to do anything. And there's a third option, which is to change the contents of the letter and remove basically paragraph number 1 and 2, saying that we support it, that we understand it, and just keep paragraph number 3, which is the one that seems to be substantive in terms of the future of our commission. See.
I think Henry has a question.
Yeah.
Or comment.
I don't have a
Yes.
question. I would just like to, oh, Henry, you want to go first? Go ahead.
My question really had to do with Abby's comment about recusal. Should I leave the room? I live on one of the roads and wrote 2 of the road passages. But a thought that I've had about the letter, which I think is good, and I think this is not to be construed as adding value or subtracting value from properties, is that it makes clear that while the content of the scenic roads bylaw seems to be comparable in some ways to things that we do, we are recognizing clearly that it is not our purview to enforce any of the discussion, any of the aspects of the discussion. That's what I think is valuable about the last paragraph. And I'll let Abby and Paul and people with more legal oversight tell any of us who lives on one of the 9 roads whether we have to go home now.
Well,
Wait, you are home, aren't you home already?
Melinda had a comment.
Yes, I'd like to say that I think we should send this letter. I think it's well written. I think it covers everything that we can do. I think this bylaw is tangential to what we are trying to achieve. Therefore, I think we should support it. But I think it's very clear that there's some things that we cannot automatically go along with, but I think it's valuable for us to do this.
Catherine, you haven't said anything.
I am listening intently. Truthfully, I think there are so many layers to this that are actually things that we can't even necessarily predict or judge right now, and that's why I'm quiet, because I'm actually just sort of playing it forward in my mind. In other words, I don't know how this is going to land. I don't know what the reactions may be, positively or negatively. You know, sort of my summary view, I guess, is that I don't see it as being in any way harmful. So I agree it's well written. I think it's basically it's clear, it's substantive. So from that perspective, I don't see that it could necessarily do any harm. But you know, on the other hand, I think there are a lot of different things going on here that this letter could sort of touch, I guess. And again, I feel like it's too easy, and maybe I don't feel like I have enough of a full perspective, certainly sort of playing it forward, to necessarily make a pat judgment about the decision. So I know that's not a clear answer, but
You were going to say something, Paul?
Well, so I was just going to back us up to how this came about. And you'll recall that there was sponsorship by Dennis and maybe one or two other people to endorse the warrant article. I mean, that was the genesis of our doing anything. And we all said, yeah, gee, that feels about right. Sounds like a good thing. I mean, apple pie and motherhood, who's against it? And so the suggestion was made, well, why don't we gin up some kind of written formulation that is positive and endorses the warrant article. And so the way this is structured is to do that in the first paragraph. The first thing you read, and maybe the only thing you read if it's like a newspaper, is the first paragraph. And you say, oh, what the hell? The HDC is in favor of this. That's a good thing. And then you move on, and in the second paragraph, we sort of say, well, think about this. Here's what we really are saying we're in favor of. And we sort of interpret what we understand the guts of the warrant article to be, the apple pie and motherhood. And in the third paragraph, we basically say, now, notwithstanding our having endorsed this, don't stick this in our face if you're an applicant 5 years from now and tell us that we took a particular position on this. Because you've said in the warrant article, you're going to write rules and regulations that don't exist today, and we don't know what they're going to be. And so we're hedging our bets against being boxed in to a series of sort of legal constraints over which we have no control and no predictability. And so paragraph 3 is just ass covering and protecting the jurisdiction of the HDC. And I think that, the question is, do you want to do all those things? And I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it does endorse the warrant article, to be clear. And if that's a good thing, then we should probably do it. It's not going to harm us. Nobody will understand the third paragraph anyway. I don't even understand it, and I wrote it, but
yeah, Paul, I come from a family of lawyers, and I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of legalese in this. I'm not quite sure what this says.
But I want
thank you actually for the context. No, I mean, I think that's helpful. I mean, I don't know. I think that I guess history has shown us already that that third paragraph probably is, sadly, maybe necessary.
Yeah, I think so.
So I guess that's my general takeaway. So yeah. Sorry for being quiet, but I was trying to process this in a very full way, kind of taking it down the road a little bit. But again, thank you, Paul. That was helpful.
I just wanted to add that that third paragraph, I think that it's a preemptive strike to protect the HTC from exactly the issue that Paul and actually Abby were identified right away. And I think that even if we were not to support the warrant article, I think that we should send the third paragraph anyway to the select board as a matter of principle, and to have a reference that we have this position. So that's the reason that I believe that the letter is relevant, and the letter is also necessary with paragraph number 3. So that's the reason I'm in favor of sending the letter. And in the context that was just mentioned, we will send a letter to the select board, and we will send the letter to town meeting to be supported, etc. So we want the select board officially to be aware of our position on the scenic roads bylaw.
I think paragraphs 1 and 2 though are critical though to basically soften and set the stage for the content of the third paragraph. That's my personal view. So anyway.
Well, we shouldn't kill this rabbit anymore. That's something I just
It's
invented.
late.
It's late. So shall we take a vote whether we should send the letter? I would move that we send the letter as written, of course, with the corrections of the name and the chair, et cetera, et cetera. So Melinda, are you in favor or against?
I'm for.
Peter?
Someone needs to make an official motion.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
think,
the chair.
Luis, I think I need to move it. Why don't I move that we send the letter as we've been discussing this evening? So I'm moving that we send the letter.
Okay, let's hear for a second.
I second.
Okay, so let's do a roll call. Melinda?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Henry?
I abstain.
Catherine?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Abby?
Nay.
Okay, so let's do a recount of the votes. We have Melinda said yes. Let me get this thing correctly. So Henry abstained himself. Melinda said yes. Abby said yes or no?
Nay.
You said nay. Peter said
Yes.
Catherine
I said yes.
said yes. Paul?
Yes.
And I'm going to say yes. So according to my tally, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeses, 1 abstention, and 1 nay. So I determined that the motion has passed and that we will send the letter. I volunteer to speak in a town meeting, but if anybody else wants to have somebody else do it, please convey that to us. I don't want to, I believe that that would be an imposition. So I think this is just a technical matter. All right, so are we done? Yes, it's 9, 10 minutes.
I'll move we adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All for it. Raise your hands.
Heather, Linda, thank you.
Linda, thanks very much for coming by.
Heather Carey's still there too.
Heather Carey's here, and
Heather's
Heather
dressed up
Gill.
as a
She has to sleep for 2 right now.
We only have 2 more meetings with you, right? Or how many?
Yeah, just 2 more.
That's so sad.
That is sad.
There will be a group therapy to figure out how they're going to live without her. Thanks everyone for coming. Thank you very much and have a very good evening. Bye bye.
All right.
Everyone.
Thank you, Luis.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.